EXP,
This
and
meeting is being recorded.
just
Sorry,
a
lady.
little bit, no
Sorry,
problem.
ladies.
Just a little bit unsure about that one. I'm going to think it through, because I think for me as a new agent, I need that more in your face contact, networking with the other agents that may be in there. So I still have about, not that I'm going to interview with all of them, but I have about 10, um, 10 different firms that have reached out to me, and I'm trying to set up a few interviews. But I've also been doing a little bit of research on the company to find out other things that I know from the back end, as opposed to the things I know from the buyer perspective when I was actually going for my house. But outside of that, I've been trying to do a little bit of goal setting, and I know you're going to talk about some of that today. And one of those things is trying to find the realtors' expenses, managing that level of finances, because it's different from a personal budget and all of that. So I'd like to know from you and your
Yeah.
cohorts as far as some of the best tools that you've used for financial management from the real estate perspective, things that speak to the real estate side of the business.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Darlene said her too. So that's a good thing for us to talk about. And I do think that starting to look at first of all, thank you for opening it up, Lydia, and sharing that, your interview experience and kind of what you're looking for. I think that's awesome that you're aware of the fact that you might have a little bit more of that personal type interaction. I got that. And so that hey, that might be something I need to take a look at. I appreciate you sharing that. And I also appreciate you sharing that you're taking a look at, as Andrea just said in the chat, that, the practical side of things. How am I going to manage this as a business? Because that's really kind of what I had on the agenda to talk about, or begin to talk about at least a little bit today as well. How are we going to manage this on the practical side as a business? So that's good stuff. That's really good stuff. How about you, Darlene? I see your hand up over there as well.
Okay, so I'm still new. I'm waiting on the state and all that. So I haven't affiliated yet because I can't. I'm waiting. But I have an idea. I thought I was going to go to one of the larger firms near me, but hindsight's 2020. When 40 or 50 of their agents are leaving, that's a red flag to me. Hey, what's going on here?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no to that. I'm just going to say that, and I'll let you continue. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Well, after talking with some of the agents that were in that office that chose to leave, and I don't want to tell you where it is, but it seems to me that the grass is greener on another side. So I wanted to find out from you guys, what is your experience with some of your newer brokers? Is it better to join a larger firm or a smaller firm with a more big firm feel? Me personally, I want to be able to extend services beyond just me. So if I could join a smaller firm that offers other things within the smaller firm without being in the large entity. When I say that, we have a large firm in town that has merged with 2 other companies, and that's originally where I was planning to go because they have a lot of the market share. But come to find out, their sales have kind of tanked in this last year. And I don't know if it's because of that last merger that they did, or if it's just because, I don't know. There are a lot of fluff, a lot more fluff than I really care to get into. The other question I have is, I'm taking 303 on the weekend, and they did a lot of talking this weekend about teams and forming an LLC. How do you know what's the best fit for you? And if you were to join a team as a brand new agent, what if you decided to part ways with that team and go out as an LLC? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure all that out because that's a lot of information.
It is a lot of information. And I know, Kandyce, you had a thought about when there are, sort of mass migrations. I'm not gonna call them leaving. I call them migrations, because to me, it's like birds. It's not necessary. It doesn't necessarily mean Canada is a bad place to be when you see the geese flying south. It just means it's a bad place for them to be. I'm gonna hit you on mute, darling, because the dog. It's a bad place to be at that point in time of the year for the geese. That doesn't mean they might migrate back. And that doesn't, and so I don't want you to ignore something like that. But as Kandyce was saying, and Kandyce, I'm sure you can elaborate on your thoughts there, it's not necessarily a good or bad thing when you see sort of migration in our business, because we are a business that has to respond to the ever-changing demands of the economy and consumers. And sometimes that means pieces are moving, and sometimes those pieces are big pieces that are moving. What do you think, Kandyce?
So the first thing, and this is going to sound, there's no nice way to say it, but at the end of the day, what I've noticed with a lot of agents is when they get started, people will move from here to here to here to here. And they'll go, oh, I couldn't make it at ABC. I'm going to go try, DEF. And then they're like, oh, that didn't work. Let me try LMNOP. And then they get to XYZ and they're still not successful. And then you got to turn around and be like, well, if you meet 9 assholes in the morning, maybe it's not everybody else, which is not what I'm saying is happening with you or with those people. But what I'm saying is at the end of the day, every single one of you has the ability to be successful regardless of where you are. If you want to be successful, you will be successful, because if that brokerage has made it, that means somebody was successful with it.
Yep.
Does that make sense? So in one breath, I'm telling you, oh my gosh, pick a great brokerage. On the other hand, I'm like, doesn't really matter. You can, if you all want to make this work, you will make it work. It's like trying to decide how great your utensils are when you're cooking. Does everybody get what I'm saying when I say that? Like, you could have the world's most expensive cooking utensils, but if you can't cook, i.e. you're my sister, then it's going to taste like crap. That's not true. She's getting better, bless her heart. But it's going to taste like...
You did not put the bless her heart on her first thing this morning, did you?
I did bless my sister's heart, but she's one of those people that likes to eat meat, but she doesn't like to touch raw meat. And then she doesn't eat all the meat off the bones, and it just drives me crazy. So, but she's getting better. But it's that same thing. She can have the world's best tools, but if she doesn't have the drive to look at them, use them, learn how to do that, she's out of luck. Again, not trying to negate where you go is important. What I'm saying is it's less about them and more about you.
It is. It is, absolutely, always. And that's what I was going to say, Kandyce, when the mention was made, of their sales have sort of tanked over the last while. Well, to me, there has to be an underlying factor to sort of drive that, Darlene. And that could mean maybe a couple of their top producers left. Maybe their office production wasn't really so much office production as it was two big mega producers. And those two mega producers finally decided, you know what, it's time for us to do our own thing. Doesn't necessarily mean they made that decision because something was wrong at the office. It just means maybe they made that decision on their own, because that can really impact an office's numbers if the office is not sort of, broad based. Because generally speaking, this is so much of a people business. We all know legally, and we hammer this into you in pre-licensing, to hire the firm, hire the firm, hire the firm, hire the firm. But the reality is that's a bunch of bull. Clients don't, in their mind, hire the firm. In their mind, whatever they're legally hiring, we know they're legally hiring the firm, and we know the implications of that. But from the client perspective, if I ask somebody, one of my clients who's selling my house, they will not say Trav Talks LLC. What will they say? If you say, who's your agent? What's their answer going to be?
Travis.
And folks, they don't care if Travis is with Trav Talks LLC or Remax Winning Edge, where I started the business, or Legacy Real Estate Properties, which was the first office I managed, or United Real Estate, which was the big office I managed. They never cared, because they weren't coming for that. They were coming for me. And that's going to be the reality for all of you. And so I love Kandyce's outlook on that, which is, at the end of the day, yes, it's important that you evaluate where you go, but ultimately your success is largely going to be dictated by you in this business. Now, as Kandyce points out, tools are important. You know, the most important ingredient is you, the chef, but tools are important. Great chefs still like to work with great tools. I mean, I'm pretty sure we could give Gordon Ramsay, a skillet from 1942 and a fork, and he can make a good meal, but he can make a better meal with the best tools. So that's the way you should really look at the firm selection thing. Choosing the wrong, quote unquote, wrong office is not going to make you a bad agent. You're still going to be good if you're good. What it might do is maybe not allow you to be the absolute best you can be, but you'll see that over time, right? And conversely, having the best possible tools is not going to make you a good agent either. And so it's going to be, and that's why stuff like what we're doing here is so intensely important. The biggest thing I would tell you about making a firm decision, and I got all the best advice in the world from my grandparents before I was 10 years old. My grandfather had some great expressions. My grandmother had some that were even better. And my grandmother's favorite expression was this one. And if you're a Southerner, you've heard it before: shit or get off the pot.
What? That's your favorite.
And honey, I'm telling y'all, it's the biggest thing in this business. Whatever it is, whatever decision you're going to make a decision and move ahead, because the biggest thing for you is to get started with generating your own business, your own brand, your own personal identity in this industry, and think of your firm affiliation as more a partnership that you're forming to try to help serve your clients. And you can change that partnership if you need to. Will there be some challenges associated with changing that partnership? Sure. But what's going to hurt you even more is simply overanalyzing the initial decision, because sometimes the truth is you don't know what you like and don't like until you sample. You know, like, for example, we went on a cruise this past summer and we took Leslie and her kids, and the whole office went, and we had a great time. And Leslie's kids, I ordered escargot the first night. And Leslie's little boy, and I love him. You know, he's 12 years old, love him to death. And he's like, what is that? I said, it's snails. Ew. Until he tried one.
It's
But
good
you know what he was willing to do? He's willing to try it. He's like, really good. Okay. And so, and that's going to be the case. We really never grow out of being that 12-year-old kid, right? Until we actually commit to trying something, we won't really find out what our preferences are. So what I would tell you, and darling, this is an answer to your question, but it's also an answer to the bigger, broader, general question. Once you've done some research and you've looked into it and you've said, okay, I think they provide me with the tools that minimally are going to help me be successful, then the rest of it, don't worry about so much, because that's the kind of stuff you can figure out along the way. I've had people, Kandyce, and I know you have, focus on, well, they give me a 90% commission split and this office gives me only a 70% commission split. Well, I hate to inform you, as long as you aren't building relationships and finding clients, 90% of zero is still zero, just like 70% of zero. So until you get started, the bigger cost to you is sitting on the sidelines, in my opinion. And so it's all, you know, that's where that, you know, mama bird push you out of the nest, right? And that's sort of my goal in that statement, is that we got to get you moving. We got to get you moving.
I would also say, like, and I know one of the questions in the chat was larger firm or smaller firm. It depends, because I've seen people go to large firms and succeed, of course, but I've seen people go to small firms, promise the moon, you know, the ocean, the sun, I'm gonna give you the world. And it either isn't a good fit or it just doesn't happen. So at some level, y'all, it's kind of like driving a car. Like, I'm an Acura girl. I love my Acuras. I will probably stay Acura because I like it. Other people, like my brother, who's a car person, he hates anything besides American cars. He thinks my Acura drives, he just like, I hate the way it drives. Doesn't make it a bad car. It doesn't make it a good car. It just makes it a preference to where you are. So some people could say Acura is a great car, and he looks at it and goes, yeah, I mean, but it feels terrible. Sometimes y'all just have to dig in and go. We can do all of the, oh, but we should do this or we should do that. You're making good decisions. You're making your decisions in a good way. You all are analyzing it. You're trying to say, okay, what do I think? And at some point, just rip that dang Band-Aid off.
And here's the thing,
Let's go.
I bet though your brother prefers an American car, he ain't gonna walk rather than drive an Acura, right?
Yeah, no.
And that's exactly the point with this kind of a discussion, which is sometimes you get in the wrong car, but it's better than no car at all. And that because you start to move. And that's going to be the biggest thing for most of you, is to get headed in the right direction and then figure out the perfect fit as you go. Very few people find the love of their life on their first date. Very few, because most people don't know what they're looking for until, and that's a lesson you're going to need to learn with buyer clients, by the way. They don't know what they're looking for either. What's the best way for a buyer to figure out what they want to buy? Start showing them houses, start looking at things, start saying, I like this, I don't like that. Because what they think they like before they start looking and what they eventually buy, two entirely different universes. And we're all that way, until we experience it.
Exactly.
Is it Dina or Dinah? I want to make sure I get it right.
It's Dina.
Dina, thank
Yes.
you for your patience.
First of all, I want to say thank you for this amazing school and opportunity. I went to your pre-licensing class with Colin and Nat and loved it. And of course, Becky. But at the end of that course, you had like brokerage questions. And I took those questions and I started doing more research and I came up with way more questions. So my question to you is it obnoxious to have a lot of questions during an interview? Like, would it be received well or will it not? Like, should I narrow it down?
It is a doctor's appointment. And people get uncomfortable asking their doctor lots of questions about their medications or whatever is going on with them or telling them what's going on. I don't care if it's obnoxious or not. You're about to get my money. I'm about to hang my horses on your stuff. No, oh no. If they are annoyed by lots of questions, that is probably a red flag that I'm scared. When I would interview people and they didn't have a lot of questions, I got scared because I'm like, how can you not care about your money and your business? Now, if you start asking me, okay, well, what time do you get to the office every morning, Kandyce? I'll be like, okay, well, I'm gonna need you to focus back on you. But I mean, asking lots of questions about what it looks like, what the training looks like, what is the management? How do they make decisions? All of those things. So I know people, you all are going to go talk to firms and some of you all are going to talk to KW and they have what's called the ALC, Agent Leadership Council. Not going to say it's bad. I'm not going to say it's good, but what I am going to say is I love a company that has a council of people that the firm has to talk to before they make major decisions. Whether it works or not, different conversation. But I love the fact that there's input and that their books are, open. For better or for worse, that's just what they do. Do I like that? Yes. Does that mean I want to be there? No, there's never too many questions because you're with a company that their decisions will have an effect on your money,
Right.
how you grow, what they're offering in training. Ask those questions and do not be ashamed to ask those questions. That's how you learn. People with no questions, even in pre-licensing, scare me.
So my second question, one of the questions on my list was regarding one of the questions that someone raised about creating an LLC while working under a brokerage. So I would like to have more information about that. That was it.
Sure. And I will also, to answer to your first question, and I share Kandyce's outlook, which is not surprising because both of us have done a lot of recruiting. I loved people who came in with a bunch of questions. I loved it. I absolutely adored it. That was my favorite thing when I was recruiting because that was the person I really wanted. You want to show me how to make me really want you versus, I'll just take you as a broker in charge. You come in and you ask me all the questions because that shows me somebody who's actually put some thought into what they're about to engage in, somebody that is ready to tackle the task. And I love that. And what I'll leave you with on that is what I hate to label people with a broad brush, but I'm going to do it to some extent here. Generally speaking, people are only uncomfortable answering questions that they don't have an answer to. And so if you go in and you have 15 legitimate questions about how the office is going to work and what kind of training there's going to be and when am I going to get started and who's going to help me and how can I shadow somebody? Those are all legitimate, great questions to ask. A broker in charge who has pause to those questions, they don't have an answer to those questions. That's why they have pause to them. That's why it makes it makes it uncomfortable for. I mean, think about yourself. You know, if somebody asks you, well, where were you 15 minutes ago? Well, if you were in the bathroom picking your nose, well, I was in the bathroom. It's an easy answer. If you were doing something you weren't supposed to do, let me think for a minute. You know, you got to dance all around the issue, right? And so that's why I love questioning. The questioning is great because those who are truly there with a servant's heart, and that's what this is all about. And I truly believe doing things like this that Kandyce and I are doing is what made us truly successful at building brokerages, because the people who build successful brokerages have to have a servant's heart. And that doesn't mean I'm putting us up on a pedestal. It just means you have to really enjoy investing in people to be good at the building up of people. And we do. And so what you're looking for is somebody who's not looking at building their business, but somebody who's looking at building you and your business. Because my thought process has always been, like you complimented, you know, Colin and Matt and Becky. See, here's the thing. I love that more than I love hearing somebody compliment me, because the more they build their brand as instructors, the more my business flourishes because of it, right? And so that's always the way I have led, and that's what I would look for if it were me. Everybody looks for something different, but if it were me, that's what I would look for in a leader. Would be somebody who is got a path, got a plan, and most importantly, is going to be invested in me. And so I think that how you find that out with the questions. So I love the questions.
Along with asking questions, y'all, and I'm not, again, trying to negate all of what I'm just saying, but you know what you all have that Travis and I did not have when we got started? YouTube, the internet as it exists now. There is not a single training question that you could possibly ask that you are not going to find the answer online. And so just the access to the amount of information and the people's stories of what was, you know, what they've done, why it worked, why it didn't work, how to go about it. You all have this amazing tool. I mean, it's kind of like it's Dr. Google. You can Google your way into, you know, getting better, or you can Google your way into I'm dying tomorrow of a head injury. Like what? But don't discount it. If you want to know how people feel or how people's experiences, it's all online. Everything you need is online. You can find these answers. We could find these answers too. It just meant we had to go a little further outside our bubble of our house to get the answers. So these are all really great questions, and y'all gonna have to rip the Band-Aid off too.
Yep.
Stop getting ready to get, you know, to get ready. Stop that. I'm getting ready and I'm getting ready and I'm getting ready. And you're gonna ask those questions. You're gonna go out there on faith. You're gonna see if it works. And if it doesn't, you're gonna make a change when you need to make a change.
That's it.
And never stop the question asking. Never stop the evaluation of, are you progressing?
You need the fearlessness to move forward and the courage to make a change if necessary. I think that's the combination.
Do y'all?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so y'all remember last week I told you about a book called Pushy by Joe Mangum, my mentor, who I talked to for hours yesterday. She's so amazing. But we ended up talking about just how people have responded during the pandemic. And she was telling me, and I got to now watch it. Oh, good. I'm so glad you liked it, Colleen. Pushy. Yes, Pushy. Yes. But we were talking about how you've got your 7 deadly sins. And there was some guy she was listening to that said one of the deadly sins that got dropped off along the way was languishing. Languishing is a deadly sin, meaning, okay, you all are at this spot now. Where do you expect to be six months from now? Still asking about what firm you're going to be at. Still like trying to figure out my plan of how I'm going to get my first sale. Because if you aren't moving, you're languishing. Don't be that languisher. Sometimes that means just going forward and doing, you know, with an educated point of view, but going forward.
Yeah, agreed.
That makes sense.
Agreed.
And I know, Tony, you have been so friggin'
Patient. Yes.
No, that's okay. This is great. And actually I'm going to ask a question about what you're saying. Like, I want to go forward. I finished my last post licensing class and I want to go forward. I'm ready to jump in. And one of the things that Travis, you said about servicing your clients, and that's what I want to do. I want to be. But what do you guys recommend when you have to transition into real estate. Like I have a main job that I have to work,
Oh,
and
no,
I
no, no.
can't.
You are dual career,
Mhm.
dual career.
Like,
So
well, so how do you do that? How do you
here's
really
here's
hit
how you do it.
when you're doing something else during the day and you're trying to?
Simple answer, and it's going to be an answer that's going to serve you well throughout your career. And it's not rocket science, but it's so elegant, it's simple. You find the clients that align with you, and you're going to do that throughout your whole career, no matter what your situation is. And right now, the clients that align with you are the ones that already work the same schedule you do. Because here's the thing, if they're already working the same schedule you're working and they're a buyer client, odds are they're not going to need you when you're not available. Does that, y'all raise your hand if that makes sense, right? Because I started this as a part-time agent, right?
I did too.
And so if you, whatever your work schedule is, Tony, when you're evaluating buyer clients, kind of feel around the edges and get an idea of what their schedule is. The simple questions, when do you generally prefer to look at houses? When do you think you'd be available for showings? You don't have to say, when do you work? That sounds stalkerish. Don't do that, right? But, generally, so I can get an idea of how I can make sure where I'm available for you when you need me to be available. When would be ideal times for you to have showings? And you can simply say, perfect. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of block out some time in my evenings and on weekends for you, because I know that works for your schedule. They don't have to know that it also works for yours. Again, you're packaging yourself to fit their needs. So the answer to that really for me is, like I said, Tony, find the clients that align with you and when you're going to be available. And the ones that don't, because if you evaluate them, they say, well, I have to look at houses at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays. And that's not going to work for you, Tony. That is why the master of the universe invented a referral fee right there. That's what you do. You take, because you don't ever want to. And again, that will also serve you well in your career. Not every client's going to be the perfect client for you, maybe because of timing, maybe because of personality, because of 100 different factors. You can still earn a referral fee off of them. You can find somebody who is available during those times and refer it over, negotiate yourself a nice little referral fee, and then move on to the ones that you can reasonably serve. It absolutely can be done. There are, hundreds of thousands before you that have made it work. I'm one of them. Kandyce is one of them. I had a full-time job at UNC in Chapel Hill when I got into the business. And I found a way to make it work on nights and weekends. And did it mean my life was insane for that period when I was the dual career? Absolutely. I ain't gonna lie about that part now. It's gonna be nuts, because there's gonna be plenty of times when you're gonna leave the 9 to 5 and you're gonna be whirring through the drive-through at Taco Bell to grab something that you don't need to be eating and you don't even really want to eat, but it's something because you got to meet them on the way. Take your big old, I don't care if it's a bib, but put it on you in the car so you don't drop food all over yourself on the way to the showing, right? You learn a contingency plan about stuff like that too. And then you're going to do your showing and then you're going to head home, and it might be 8:30, 9 o'clock. But here's the thing. When you turn that into one commission check a month, it'll feel like a bonus. When you turn it into 2 commission checks a month, it'll feel like it's time to quit my day job. And that's how you do it. You do it by finding the clients that align with you and when you can, the ones you can service.
I think with dual career, I agree with all of that. I would say, because I've done a lot of dual career training in my life, and you all, if you're deciding to do this dual career, you're about to be, it's like being a parent. You have something else you're trying to grow, whether it's kids or this business. And you better have a plan, because if you go to a company and all their business is 9 to, and all their training is 9 to 5, then how are you going to get these questions answered? I'm not saying don't join the company. Who are you calling when you have those questions? For some companies, it's going to be your BIC. For some companies, it's going to be your mentor. Dual career just means you have a lot more to organize than maybe somebody who's doing this full time. Because if you're full time, then most companies will be like, oh, here's our training schedule. And that gives you a schedule. When you're dual career, now it's up to you to figure out, how do I learn? When do I learn? And how do I find business and handle that business and grow my business all at the same time? So it just means a lot more organization and having a plan as to how you're going to learn to be successful.
And I agree. Lindsay had a great thought. She said, folks, remember, you're going to have the same problem even when you're full-time in real estate and you're busy. We can't all be available 24/7 for our clients. And so it's always going to be about that juggling of schedules and juggling of times. That's a good problem to have. And so learn how to partner with somebody else in your office, and whether that's through referring to people you can't help out or just truly partnering and sharing in that client and sharing in that commission. There are ways to make that work. Absolutely, there are. Brady, you have been super patient as well. What's up, sir?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you just fine.
Can you hear me? Okay. So I've been bombarded with lead generation firms, and I kind of wanted y'all's opinions, experiences, or recommendations, regarding that.
Yeah, so lead generation, we're going to talk about that today. It's a great question. Here's what I will say. Until you know what to do with them, it's not going to be helpful, no matter how quality the leads are or how lack of quality they are. Until you know how to cultivate them and work with them, they're useless. So until we get to the point where you can generate your own points of contact, because I will give you a little bit of info. The points of contact that you generate personally will always have a higher likelihood of success, because that's somebody who was attracted to you as a person. That's somebody you made personal touch with. That's somebody who doesn't have that barrier up, because all of these lead generators, these are people who went on a website and asked one question, and that question was not, can you find me a real estate agent? They ask a question about some house that's listed somewhere. It may or may not be on the market. And that lead generation company has sold that lead to at least 6,000 real estate agents. That's the other thing you need to know about those lead generation companies. You're not exclusive to them. Y'all remember that word exclusive, right? We like exclusive. Well, you're not going to get it with a lead generation company. That lead they've given to you, they've also given to 10 other people in your area. And it's really a matter of who gets to them first, who gets to them best. And in some cases, it's a matter of, don't talk to me. That's not why I put my name on the form. So you're always going to have a better, higher rate of conversion with the people you generate yourself. So what I would say is, until you get at least proficient with talking to the people that you self-generate, that you're not having to pay for, then don't pay for ones, because it's going to be wasted money. So I think that's something on the horizon when you're 3, 4, 5 months in and you've learned a little bit about how to talk to people, at least initially, and get them over the hump of converting them from customer to client. Does that make sense, Brady, as kind of an answer? I think it can be a very valuable tool, but it can get really expensive really quickly if you don't know how to convert them.
Is it regulated in any way?
It is not regulated in any way that I'm aware of,
That's
Kandyce.
kind of what I thought. Yeah. I know what yeah.
I would say, Brady, my big thing, and this is why I don't do this for companies. There are a ton of companies that are going to tell you to lead generate. And when they say that they have new agent training, my biggest beef with them is new agent training is usually lead gen training. And I can teach you how to lead gen, but if at the end of the day, once somebody says, I'm ready to buy, and you feel uncomfortable with helping them buy, you're going to be out of luck. I mean, like, you're either not going to know what to do, or you're going to look unprofessional, or you're going to be so scared about actually getting this yes, you don't do the real work to get the yes. So along with having these lead generation companies, what are they doing to teach you how to real estate? Or whenever I'm teaching a new agent, I say, look, there's 3 things you got to do to be successful. You got to know how to lead generate. That's awesome. But you also need to know how to real estate. Mm-hmm. Do you know how to show that house? Do you know how to fill out an agency contract? Do you know how to negotiate? Do you know how to do that? Do you even have a list of people that you can send them to if they need a home inspection?
Well, that's exactly right. If you don't have answers to those questions,
estate,
you're not ready for the conversation.
You got to know how to do that, which most companies are not addressing in lead gen.
Yep.
They're not addressing that in a lead gen class. And that's across the country. People are like, great, I have the business, but what you want me to do? It's kind of like, again, going back to that kitchen analogy. I can hand you a tool, but if you don't know how to use that tool, it's useless.
That's
A tool
exactly
is
right.
only a tool.
So
So
I think of it like, the people in Sam's Club that I joked about a couple of weeks ago that always, bombard you with the direct TV. Now, I know we all hate those kind of being bombarded things, but be honest. Have you noticed that there are some people that in spite of yourself, you end up having a conversation with them, in spite of the fact that you put your armor up? I don't want to talk to this person. I don't want direct TV. I don't want an HVAC system. Do you find that every once in a while, there's one that you still find yourself having a conversation with? What do y'all think? Does that happen sometimes? See, here's the thing. DirecTV or the HVAC company or whoever paid Lowe's or Home Depot or Sam's Club to have that person in there. And they paid the same amount for that person to be in there, whether they were really good at generating that conversation or whether they were really bad at generating that conversation. In one instance, they're getting their money's worth because they got somebody in place who's good at converting. In the other instance, they're burning money. They're just lighting it on fire. And that's what Kandyce is referring to when she said, you got to know how to real estate. And so I think learning how to get your feet under you first, how to answer basic questions, because, okay, say you do get a live one on the other end of the line. Well, yeah, I'm ready to buy, but I don't know anything about lending. What do I need to do about it? Well, let me talk to my broker in charge and I'll get back. Gone. You just lost the one you were waiting for. You just threw it away, right? And so I would hold off, me personally, on paying for lead generation until you've learned the basics of how to talk to the people that you generate on your own. Yeah, I would. I really would. Mm-hmm. Sue, thank you for that question, Brady, by the way.
Hi, good morning. I don't want to dwell on this whole the languaging part for too long, like Kandyce said, but I guess I'm looking for maybe some advice on when you sign that independent contract, what are the things that that are good to have, and what are the things that are definitely, like, maybe we won't think that it's going to be a problem, but then but then later on maybe I don't know if I'm
you're making sense. I think the big things, well, first of all, there's going to be so many things that could come up. Read that contract. All of you all have good common sense because you passed this test. I mean, you're going to have to kind of look at it and read it. But the big things I would tell you want to avoid is a non-compete, where they tell you can't go and go someplace, afterwards. And what's happening to your leads or the deals that you have in progress if you decide to leave.
Absolutely. Those
are probably the two big ones.
I think if you want to have 2 bullet points of absolute things you need to look at in any independent contractor agreement, Kandyce is exactly right. You don't want any kind of a non-compete clause in there. What that means is if I leave your office, I can't go work at another office across town, or I can't go work at another office in the same MLS. You don't want to sign anything. And that should be, in my opinion, I can't tell you what to do. I'm not your attorney, I'm not your mama, but I am going to tell you, for me, that'd be an instant deal breaker. That'd be a no, thank you, bye, have a nice life. I'm gone. They would be if there was a non-compete in there. Because here's the thing. The only people who put those kinds of things in their contracts are worried that you will leave and you will be their competition. If they really feel they're the best fit for you, they're not worried that you're going to leave, right? So that would be a non-starter for me. And then, as Kandyce pointed out, you want to ask verbally, but you also want to have them show you where it is in an independent contractor agreement, what it says about the leads you generate, the people you bring to the office, and how they will be treated when you leave the office. And this is why pre-licensing matters, folks, because remember, who are all these people going to sign agency agreements with? Are they going to sign agency agreements with you personally, or are they going to sign an agency agreement with your office?
With the firm.
With the firm, with the office, right? Depending on what kind of office setup you have, they're going to hire the firm. And because they're hiring the office from a legal standpoint, if you leave, the office has to let them go if that's what you want to happen. So you need to see that in writing, that if it's a client that I brought to the firm and I depart the firm and the client would like to follow me to my new location, here is how we're going to handle that. Now, I did not say some statement that says, we're just going to let you take them free and clear. I think that's probably unrealistic. I think they're going to want something out of the deal. I think what Kandyce is saying, I don't want to speak for her, but I know what I'm saying is, whatever it is, you just want to see it in writing. What you don't want is to leave it up in the air, because if it's left up in the air, you don't know how they're going to handle that. Maybe they let you take them, maybe they keep them and you get nothing, or anything in between goes because it was not, it was not in writing. So whatever it's going to be, make sure it's something you can live with. Like, for example, the first office I was with, I still remember my independent contractor agreement. It said anybody that I brought to the office, if I left the office, then they would get a 25% referral fee for that client, but they would release them if the client wanted to leave with me. They would release them to wherever I was going and they would get a 25% referral fee. I was comfortable with that. I thought that was fair. And it was in writing. Does that make sense for everybody? As long as it's in writing and you're comfortable with it, it's a good thing. The danger is not having it in writing. And I'm not saying 25% should be your number. I'm just saying that was a number I was comfortable with. I was glad to see it in writing. I knew that way, if I was thinking about leaving, I knew exactly what to plan for. Because the biggest thing I see with people trying to leave is, we call it the golden handcuffs in our business. They don't have it in writing what would happen with their clients when they leave. So they're terrified to even have the discussion with their broker in charge about leaving, because they're terrified that the broker in charge is going to tell them, well, we're keeping all your clients. And so they end up staying where they don't want to stay. Now you see why we call it the golden handcuffs, right? And so make sure you got something in there about what would happen when you leave. I think those are the two big ones. Other than that, don't get paralysis by analysis. Yes, read it. Yes, ask questions, but it's more important to get going than it is to weed out every little thing. You have to also remember, if the office is of any size, they probably had an attorney draft that thing for them, and they probably are not going to change it on an individual basis for little old you, because they've got 78 just like you who all signed the same agreement. So don't get paralysis by analysis either. Lydia?
Hey, Travis, I just wanted to circle back to my first question regarding the financial management tools for brokers.
Yep.
So we are going to do that. And I'm going to, again, I hate when I have to do this, but at the end of the day, what I will say for all of you all for financial management is the biggest step that you can know is your numbers. Because before you can even talk about management, you got to know where you are. So before we talk about how to handle the money that may or may not be coming in, what do you all know how much you make a month now and what the base amount you have to make is in order to pay your bills and be able to eat? How many months of savings could you live if not a single penny came in? How much money do you have that you could live off of right now? How much money, for the money that you have right now, are you going to be able to put towards moving forward? Because real estate is expensive. Yep. I mean, it's not compared to a lot of other businesses, but I will use this for an example. And I'm saying this because you all have all graduated, but sometimes people come for coaching for passing the test. And I'm like, okay, try, learn, test, pass. It's $25. Like, oh, that's a lot of money. And it breaks my heart to be like, if this $25 is a lot of money for you right now, we're going to have some issues as far as you getting into the business, because there are so many things that you all have to pay for just to play. You got to pay to play at some level in this business. So before we talk about the management of your money, I need to know, do you have acknowledgement, understanding, and an intimacy with the money that you already have?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Intimacy.
I mean, it's not fun, but you got to know. You have to know where your money situation is right now. And now he's going to bring up, I love what you made. I love that. Sarah?
What's that? The little slides that we're going to go over here?
Mm-hmm. I do.
So let's do a little math. Y'all didn't know there was going to be math today. Everybody's like, oh God, I'm leaving. I'm quitting. No, it's good math, because you can't come up with success, in my opinion, unless you have a plan, at least some vague outline of a plan. And the thing is, I think when we say, okay, I got to go generate clients, the question for everybody is, well, what does that mean? How many clients do I need to generate? How many people do I need to talk to? So by the end of going through this, and I emailed this all to you as well, and I can probably throw it in the chat box here in just a second. By the end of this, what I hope is you will see that you really can kind of come up with your own target goals. And this will be something you'll have to do several times as your career goes on, because you'll learn more and more about, okay, this is how I convert things. This is how, this is my rate of closing, all of those things. And I'm going to throw it in the chat right there. There we go. If you didn't get the email. But so don't feel like these numbers are locked in, but I did want to talk about just the numbers of kind of giving you a target of how many people you need to be talking to, because we're all going to have different goals. There's no doubt about that, but numbers are good goals, because numbers you can actually put on a checklist and say, I did this today or I did not. How many of you feel like you need accountability? Like, I mean, think about it. When you go to the gym, everything's in numbers, right? You don't say I did sit-ups today. You said I did 30 sit-ups today. And that means tomorrow I want to do 32 sit-ups. If you didn't count, you would never have an idea of whether you were staying on track, whether you were improving. And so numbers become really important for us. So I want you to think for yourself. And again, it doesn't have to be a final answer, but just for today's purposes. And that's why I've given you the blank one, so you can come back to this and revisit it as many times as you want to throughout your career. I want you to think about a financial goal. How much money would you like to make? Now, this is pre-tax money. We're not talking about after you taxes and, and after you pay your expenses like realtors stuff. We're just talking about how much money would you like your firm to cut a check for you for in the next 12 months? How much money would you like coming into your pocket as a result of your real estate career in the next 12 months? Why don't y'all just kind of, if you don't mind, throw it in the chat. What you think your number is. I'd like to see where some of your thought processes are.
Before you put a number in the chat, I'm gonna tell you, I like to tell my coaching people, if you write $100,000, stop it. That is my least favorite. People, I want to make $100,000. Really? You making 40 right now? How do we go to 100? Like, be somewhat. I'm not saying I don't want you to push, but don't say $100,000 because it's a magic round number.
Right.
Like, look and say, what would you actually like to make? Before taxes. It could be $100,000. That's great, but give it more thought than $100,000.
Right.
Everybody get what I'm saying? Just please don't.
That's exactly right. So I see Sue and Dina are, $10,000, $15,000. Colleen said about $30,000 to $50,000. See, don't worry about the number of homes. Don't worry about the number of homes. I want a monetary goal. How much money? A monetary goal. Because when you start to say 4 homes, let me tell you why that's a problem. Because you don't really know how to equate that to what you really want. You don't really want to sell 4 homes. Because you might want to sell 10. What you want is a number in your pocket, right? So, so good. I see some people are on the higher end. I've seen 75,000. I've seen 10,000, and that's the beauty of something like this, right, Kandyce? That everybody has their own individual goals. So for you, I want you, and if you haven't printed out these slides, that's okay. Just on scratch paper, but you can print the slides out if later on if you want to. I want that first number up there to be your goal. What you just said, whatever number you just said, that's what you're going to put on that top line up there. So, like as an example, Kandyce, we'll use. I saw $50,000. Okay, so we'll say $50,000 in the next year. Okay. That didn't mean that has to be your goal. It's just the number I picked because it was kind of the most common one. What do you call that? The mean? Isn't that what you call the most common number?
Look, that's a math question, and I tap out. I played with it.
So 50,000, I think was the most common number I saw. Now, this is where Some of you will already have the answer to the next question. Some of you won't, because some of you have not affiliated with an office yet. One of the big points of discussion for all of you when you affiliate with your office is what is going to be your commission split. Now, I don't want you to overly complicate things. If you've hung your license with an office where, oh, it's this number until you cap out and there's, and then it becomes this number, just go with the first number, whatever the starting split is. So if your starting split is 70%, then you would put 70% on this line. If your starting number is 50% because you joined a team and they're doing 50%, you would put 50%. Those of you that have not joined an office yet, you've probably talked to some. How many of you, just kind of show of hands, have at least talked to an office and gotten an idea of what your commission split might be? Just quick show of hands. Okay, that looks like the majority of people. How many of you have not talked to an office at all, so you have no idea? All right. So for those of you that have raised your hand that say you have not talked to an office at all and you have no idea, I'm just going to say, why don't you put 70% on that line? Because that's a pretty somewhere in the middle of the ballpark number. I mean, I think on the low end, you're going to see 50%. On the high end, you're going to see 90%, depending on the office you affiliate with. So 70 is kind of down the middle. So I just think if you haven't talked to anybody, you can put that number on there. If you have your own number, please put your own number in there because we want this to be as personalized. And here's the thing. Can y'all use this as a tool? Those of you that haven't talked to an office yet, can you go home real quickly and use this as a tool to evaluate after you leave there? Once you have their commission split, you could plug this number in and you can see how it impacts everything.
I think this is a great question to bring up when you're interviewing. What tools, what training are you offering me to help me figure out how to best run my business? And as a new agent, or even if you're an experienced agent, if they're not ready to sit down and help you or teach you how to run your numbers, it's probably the wrong office.
Okay.
I'm not even a fan of math and numbers, but when it comes to real estate, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
This is your money.
So Lydia says she wants to net 75. So the goal needs to be 80, then to put 85. Whatever the goal is for production, put that. That's your starting number. Has everybody got a goal and a percentage? Do we all have that? Give me a thumbs up if everybody's got a goal and a percentage. Okay. Don't sit there and don't put a number in because you need to see how it works. Even if you don't have an office, again, that's that fear of commitment we got to get you over. You're not signing a contract here, folks. Just plug a number in. Okay.
You're not committing. It's just
now. Get out your calculator or your phone or whatever, and just do the math that's on the screen. Take that. So I'm going to take $50,000 and I'm going to divide it by 70%. Now you can either, just like pre-licensing, you can either use the percent button on your calculator or you can do 0.70. I don't care which one you divide by. Either one will work. So here's the total amount of commission that this agent would need to generate, $71,428 and about 57 cents. Okay. So about $71,000 or $72,000 in commission this person needs to generate. But that's not a good target for y'all because that doesn't tell you what you need to do tomorrow, right? That doesn't tell you what you need to do tomorrow. Here's what I would say, Dina. You don't have a business to leverage yet. And can we help you with leveraging your business to build a team? Yes, absolutely. But I can also help you build a plan to go to Mars. It ain't gonna do you no good right now. We got, baby steps. And that's one of the big problems of our business. Everybody wants to tell you how to be a bazillionaire before they tell you how to sell one house. We got to keep it on the base, in the basement, right? You started from the bottom, now you're here, but you got to start at the bottom. We all do, right?
I think there's a good merger of, okay, they're helping me start, and are they going to help me grow too? So you want to focus on helping me start. And do you have a path to help me grow? Great. That's nice to know in the future.
Yep. That's exactly right.
But
that's exactly right. Love it.
What are you doing when you wake up? And if I can be so bold to say, if people ask me, why do I think most agents fail? My honest answer is because most of us come from jobs where somebody told you what you had to accomplish in order to get paid.
Yep.
It's one of the reasons why I think teachers make such great real estate agents. There are very few jobs where they look at you and say, Here is your goal. Get these people here. Good luck. And we're not giving you any tools. There's teaching.
Yeah.
So teachers are used to having to keep themselves, figure out what the goal is. How am I going to get there? What is that going to look like? But when it comes to other industries, because you've always been told, here's what you have to accomplish. It's that idea of I'm waking up on Monday. Nobody's, if you're doing full-time, I'm just using this example. If you want to wake up on Monday and be like, today feels like a spa day. And on Tuesday, you're like, today feels like a movie day. And Wednesday, you're like, today feels like a hike day. Ain't nobody going to stop you.
Yep, that's right.
And now you need to be told or shown a way to do how to daily or weekly, whatever it's going to be. What are the steps to getting to be an agent?
Okay.
Does this make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Like you've
Does to
got
me.
to know what it is you're trying to do, and knowing your numbers, what Travis is doing with you right now is the first step. It's the first step to realizing a plan to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. So does everybody have now commission you would need to generate so far? Everybody good with me so far? We got a number down there, right? Okay, because we're not done. We're not done at all. I just want to make sure you got that number. I'm going to clear these out so I can go to the next slide. So I'm going to take that number that I just had, 71,428 and 57 cents. Now, another number that we need to plug in here. What do you anticipate will be your commission per transaction? Now, remember, we got federal laws that say there's no such thing as a normal or an average or a standard. It's what you charge. It's what your office charges. And that's why I didn't put in like a standard number here. I can tell you what my number is on this line. My number is about 2.5 or 2.6% on this line. And the reason for that is on most of my listings, these are my listings, not what everybody charges. On most of my listings, I'm charging a 6% commission, and I'm usually compensating offices that are bringing us a buyer with 3%, and I'm keeping 3%. That's my, so I could expect to keep about 3% on my listing transactions. And most of the time when I'm representing buyers, what I charge the buyer on my buyer agency agreement is 2.4%. Okay. Now we could have conversations about why that's the number I charge buyers versus the number I charge sellers. There's more expenses on the listing side of things. There are more things I need to cover as far as like marketing. So that's why I charge sellers a little bit more than I charge buyers. But because of, 2.4 is kind of normal for me on the buyer side, and 3 is sort of normal for me on the seller side, I'd probably put about 2.7% right here. Now, all of you may have slightly different numbers. If you're, as new agents, I would say you're probably going to have more buyers than sellers. That's generally how things go for newer licensees. So if you charge buyers a little bit less, then maybe your number needs to be a little bit less. So
I usually tell people, if you're brand new and you don't know yet, err on the side of too low. I'd rather see you put in something like 2.2, because not saying that there's an average, but if I were to look at what happens a lot in the MLS, that's probably a lot lower than what you would see. But 2.2 means chances are you're not going to have too much that's below that. Does everybody get what I'm saying?
That's
Like
exactly right.
2.7 is great, but if you don't know what y'all are doing, put a number like 2.2.
And there you go. I love that. I love that advice, because obviously my number is going to be a little bit higher probably than your number. First of all, I'm a smooth talker. I'm going to be able to talk people into more money than you are probably. I mean, that's just the reality of the thing. The other thing is I'm going to do more listings, and that's going to pump because I charge sellers a little bit more, that pumps my number up a little bit more.
And I will say this again, y'all, this is where having a trainer or a coach, one of my proudest moments as a coach was when I had a new agent who got her first listing at 7%. I was like, stop playing, boo. I'm so proud of you. Like, there are ways to get those numbers higher, what to say, what to do. This is an investment. And I'm not saying it has to be one of us, nor do I even know if I want it to be one of us, but you want to talk to somebody who's there to help you grow. It's like going to school and you get an advisor. You want somebody to help you with this, y'all. If you think 2.2 is low, then you find somebody, a trainer, a coach that's going to show you how to get to those higher numbers.
So
Does that make sense?
I love it. I love
right.
it. Now,
Continue on.
that's a big part of the business too, being able to justify what you're charging people.
Mhm.
Now, if you look at the math, you're just going to divide again. Take that top number that you took from page 1, divide it by whatever percentage you have on that line. If you've got 2.2%, divide it by 2.2%. If you got 2.5%, divide it by 2.5%. Now, for me, here's what my math looks like. The total sales I would need to do for that 12-month period is $2,645,502 and some change. So almost $2.7 million in volume. You see why starting from your monetary goal is the best thing? Because how many of you had any idea that you needed to sell to? Anybody want to share in the chat so far what your volume number looks like? How much volume you need to do just thus far, right? Anybody want to share their number in the chat to see what? Obviously, mine came up to 2.6. So Colleen said 2.4 million, 2 million. Su Yang said $570,000. Juanita a little over 2 million. Rachel said 129,000. Nicole said 4.25 million. Nicole,
I like that, Nicole.
She gonna have to get on the stick. She got.
I like it, Nicole. I do. Don't even. I like that number.
I love it. But here's the thing, folks. You see how all of you have these dramatically different goals already. And that's the beauty of a tool like this, because as your goals shift, you'll be able to come back to this tool over and over and over and make adjustments. And it's going to tell you exactly how much work you need to put in on a daily basis, because we ain't done yet. Are y'all ready to move to the next step? I hope you're getting excited about this, because this is going to tell you what you need to do tomorrow to start to meet these goals. Right?
If a company is not teaching you how to do this, you're in the wrong company.
Okay, so I'm gonna clear this out and move to the next one. So we take that number that we just got, 2,645,502 and some change. That was my number. You put your number. Now, again, this is where you have to be your area expert. You have to know your area pretty well. What is the average sales price of a property in your area? Now, don't think you're going to be, as Kandyce said earlier, you're not going to be the $1 million listing agent on day one. It's not going to happen. You know, so err on the side of being conservative here and realize you might not hit the average in your area. If the average in your area is 350, yours might be more like 275 because you're a newer agent, because people who are more savvy and experienced in buying those upper end homes may tend toward more experienced agents. That's just a natural reality in our business. So this average here, you know, be conservative with it, whatever you think it is.
So my general rule of thumb is to take your average and do between 70 to 80% of that. So if your average is, and the average cost, like if you do all the research, oh, the average price of a home is such and such. Yeah. Now take 70 or 80% of that. And that's what you can probably assume as newer agents. It's a good, we don't have to talk about the why, but you probably more than likely are not going to start at that average price. Now, if your spouse happens to be, or you happens to be really well connected with some millionaires, that's great and bully for you. But for the rest of everybody else, I tell you in general-ish, it's about 350 right now in the Raleigh area.
So
if you're in Raleigh.
I was going to say it's about 350 or so in Raleigh. So I'm going to put 300 just because I want to be a little conservative.
Yep. Does that make sense? If you feel like and it's going to have something to do with your age as well. And I hate to be that way, but if you're 20 something and none of your friends are buying houses, or they're all buying their first houses, do you get what I'm trying to say there? Not so nicely, like, you know what? But if you're in your late 40s, 50s, and 60s, y'all, we got some money saved up. Some of your friends, people you know that you connect with, that you're going to meet, they might be a little bit higher. You
Well,
might
and
want to
they've
go
got
higher than that
equity.
350.
They've got equity from the house they just sold. Because if they're in 40s and 50s, this is not their first purchase, most likely. And so they just sold a house and they've got a couple $100,000 of equity. Colleen said hers was 250,000. Anybody else want to share what you throw in there for what you anticipate your number to be? For your average 220? Good. I
like
think
it. Yeah.
those are realistic numbers. And I don't even know where you're located, but that looks like a super realistic number to me. Obviously, if you're in a super high end market, your number may be bigger, if that's the market you're going to work in. Also, if you're in a super rural area, like, Juana said, she's in the triad. So that encompasses a lot of pretty rural areas. So she's down in the 180. Colleen said, I'm rural. And if you're in a rural area, the reality is you're just going to have to do more transactions to generate the same amount of dollars. I mean, it's just the way it works. Okay. So now do the math again. Notice same math. We're going to divide again. Take that commission amount and divide it by whatever you put in here for your average price point. Right now, you now have the answer to a question that you were guessing at before. I need to close 8.81 or 8.82, really, transactions in that year to make the $50,000 that I wanted to make in the beginning. Give me a thumbs up now if you got a number of transaction sides you need to close to meet your goal. Is that already very helpful information to now have a target? I need to close this many houses in 12 months. Juana said she needs to close 12, basically. Colleen needs to close 10. Nicole.
Let's think about what Juana just found out. She's got to sell one a month. Is that a lot different? And Juana, what was your original number? Was it the, you put it in there for me? What was your original? Your original, like, your
50 grand.
50
well,
grand.
not that you want to make 50, but that this idea of what your sales, why can I not think of the word?
The total commission.
The total sales volume.
Oh,
What
yeah.
was your total
sales volume.
What was your total sales volume?
2,083,333.
So does everybody see that saying I need to sell 2 million is a lot less, that's scary versus saying I need to sell one house a month?
Yes.
That is a lot more tangible, because if you miss a month, if you don't sell one in February, it means you have to sell two in, either March, April, May, or June. That is doable. That is a goal. And we're going to break it down some more for you, but that's a goal you can now look in a mirror every morning and be like, I'm either on my goal, I'm either at goal, or I'm behind my goal.
Yeah,
So,
January is already gone, so I need to double up in February.
yeah, exactly.
So now let's take, and we're going to clear this out, and we're going to start over again with that number of transactions, 8.82 for me. You got your own number, right? And I apologize for the bark, and the landscapers are here and the dogs will go crazy. It's just ain't no way around it, sorry. So I got 8.82. Now, this is where you're going to have to be honest with yourself. What percentage of your clients do you think are actually going to close on something? Now, for me, I will tell you, I'm good for about 35 to 40% of my clients actually closing. 35, 40%, 50% is a really good year. That means people that I get under an agency agreement who actually end up purchasing something or selling something, I'm 35 to 50%. You're probably not going to be that high because this is your first year. You're going to have more people that fall off the wagon, that start the journey but don't finish the journey. Andrea said she thinks 25%. I think that's pretty good for a newer agent, right? So I think 25% is probably a pretty good number for somebody that's new to throw in there. We're not talking about percentage of people you meet that will buy a house. Now, I want to be clear about that. We're talking about percentage of people that you actually sign a buyer agency agreement with or a listing agreement with that end up closing. What do you think, Kandyce, is a good number?
So I'm so Southern now. I'm trying to mash it down. I usually break it up a little bit into more steps, but for you all starting out, I think saying 20%, because these are people that you get under contract. Now, let's just be honest. Sometimes as you all are starting out, it's easy to find the people who are like, yeah, as soon as I get my credit ready, I'll be ready to go. So someplace between 15 to 20%, which sounds low, but remember, you're trying to convince people to trust you right now. So that number is going to go up. And going back to previous conversations, you want to find companies or training of some sort that's going to teach you how to get that number higher. Does
I
that
had
make
one
sense?
client last year, and it was really amazing to me because what they started out with was looking at land, and then it progressed until they did end up buying something. But what they ended up buying was so far from what they started out with. So it was total learning curve.
So now, whatever number you put here, and I put 20% because I agree with Kandyce. I think for a new agent, 20% of people that actually sign an agency agreement with you closing on something is a pretty good conversion rate, folks. We have a lot of people that fall out in the process. You know, think of all the buyers who end up not finding something after they've signed a buyer agency agreement with you. See, they all count. Those were clients that didn't buy. Right? Think of the listings you're going to have that expire because you didn't find a buyer for them, you know, because the market's kind of wonky right now in some places. That's got to count. So 20%, do the math. If I divide again by 20%, here's the thing, folks. Now I have a number of clients that I need for the year. How many of you think that's a helpful number? How many clients do I need? Wanda said she needs 57 clients. For me, folks, it would be 44 clients. It's 44.09 if you want to be exact, but 44 clients that I would need to have, again, working all the way backwards to make $50,000. So for me, now I know $50,000 equals I need 44 clients. It sounded easier when it was only 8 transactions, didn't it, folks? And that's the eye-opener moment, right? How many of you, that was the aha, like the oh shit moment right there?
That
right?
was the oh shit moment. That was the grab onto the Jesus bar in the car.
That is Jesus, take the wheel. I need a lot of people, right? And that's exactly what it is. That's the eye-opener right there.
But
right?
I also don't want you all to get stuck on this number because it is doable. That number sounds like a lot, but when Travis goes to the next page and he takes that 44 people, forms a 44 agency agreements, we're going to break that down even further so that you're not just looking at, okay, I got to get 44 people now.
Yep.
It is a doable number. You just
And that's
have
what
to
we're
make
going to
it
do.
take
Blow it up.
bite-sized pieces.
We're going to blow it up, and then we're going to bring it right back down to what you need to do today to get there. How many of y'all think, how many of y'all ready to see what I need to do today to get there? Right?
Mhm.
That's why I love this. That's why I love it. All right. So let me clear it out again. We're going to start with our number 44.09 clients that I need. Now, here's another number. Katrina said, I'm scared. You should be, because this number is going to be even uglier right here. I want you to be honest with yourself, folks. How many people do you think you're going to have to talk to get one person to sign an agency agreement with you? How many? Because they're not going to all sign with you. Is everybody you talk to about real estate going to hire you as their agent? What do y'all think? No?
Y'all are saying yes, just stop lying to yourself.
Uh,
But I love Tracy. I love the enthusiasm. She's like, yeah, no, everybody's going to love me. I love it.
So now here's the thing. Some of you, I think, are underselling yourself. You're not going to have to talk to 150 people to get one person to buy a house. You're not going to be that bad. It's not going to be that bad. I promise. But it might be, folks, 10 people that you have to talk to get one person. Now, not to buy, not to close, just to sign an agency agreement, just to sign on with you as you're my agent. You might have to talk to 10, which, by the way, would be a 10% rate right here. How many of you think 10 is your number? I have to talk to 10 to get one to sign a buyer agency agreement. How many of you think that's the number? If that's your number, put 10% on that line. How many of you think you can get 1 out of every 5 to sign a buyer agency agreement or a listing agreement? Raise your hand if you think you can get 1 out of every 5. Because if it's 1 out of every 5, that's 20%. See, I think I could get 1 out of every 4, but I'm good. And I've been doing this a long time. So 1 out of every 4 for me would be 25%. I think y'all are probably closer to the 1 out of every 10. How many of y'all think you probably closer to 1 out of every 10? Okay.
And remember, this is an estimate. And again, you're going to have training on how to have better conversations. Does that make sense? So as much as these numbers could be scary, this is what you're looking for. Don't just go with, oh, how did lead generate? You want to have classes about how do you add up? How do you increase your conversion levels? You want companies that are talking to you about these business things. Does that make sense? Like, these are good things to ask, good things to realize.
I kind of gave you a little cheat sheet over there. I gave you a little cheat sheet. If you think you're 1 out of 10, put 10% on that line. If you think you're a 1 out of 20 person, put 5% on that line. If you think you're the 1 out of 5, put 20%. Is everybody got one of those numbers? Now, I'm not saying you have to use one of those numbers. I want you to be honest with yourself. If you think, man, I'm good, half the people I talk to are going to be my clients. Okay, then put 50% there. I think that's unreasonable, but you know, that's my thought. Does everybody have a number on this line now? Because if you think the previous number was eye-opening, you about to get one that'll absolutely floor you. And
It's gonna mollywop you.
So I'm going to say I'm going to put 20% on the line here. You might have 10%. Do your math. Divided by that number. Folks, this is the number of people you need to talk to over the next year about real estate specifically. This is the number of people, the number of contacts that you need to generate specifically in order to meet your goal. How many of y'all got a number now?
What's that number? Put it in the chat.
What is that number? How many people do we need to talk to? 540. Dana said 540. She needs to talk. That's a number. 660, 250. These are all super useful numbers, by the way.
And they're scaring you, but I promise we're going to make it better.
And that's right. It's about to get better. The numbers are going to stop getting small, stop getting bigger now, folks. We got the biggest number we're going to see. This is the number that should terrify you. Now we're going to make it digestible.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready to break it down to digestible now? Okay. Everybody's like, I like this in the beginning. I don't like it no more. I don't like it no more. I stopped liking this a while ago. No, it's going to get better. All right, clear me out again. Here we go. I know I need 220. I'm just going to say 221 to be. I'm not going to work 52 weeks a year. I am not going to do that. Maybe you are that person that is going to work 52 weeks a year. I just want you to think about, is that really realistic? That means you're not going to take the week off for Christmas. You're not going to take the week off for New Year's. You're not going to take the week off for 4th of July. You're not going to. What you have to be honest with yourself here realistically about how many work weeks you are going to have in that year. And that, remember now, folks, this ain't like a job where you got all it. I've had people say, well, I'm gonna work 50 weeks because my job now I have 2 weeks of vacation. You a lie. You're not gonna work 50 weeks because at your job now that you have 2 weeks of vacation, you probably already closed on Christmas and New Year's and 4th of July and Memorial Day and Labor Day and Easter, and all of that doesn't count in your 2 weeks of vacation. You get all those days off plus 2 weeks of vacation. How many of y'all think that if you got 2 weeks of vacation, it's much closer to 4 weeks of vacation when you actually look at it, right? So I think for most of you, 48 is kind of the high end number here for how many weeks you're actually going to work a full work week. Some of you might be 50. I don't think anybody's going to be 52. I don't think that's realistic.
Put in 48.
Put in 48. Okay.
I mean, you all know if you're a workaholic. I say this as a workaholic.
Okay. So 48 is what Darlene said we should go with here. But everybody knows, you know yourself better. Some of you are teachers. You're used to having more of a break. Maybe you need that, right? You know you better than I know you. And this is really a personal goal setting. So again, I'm going to do the math. Finally, the number's going to get smaller though. If I divide here by my 48 weeks, that means the number of contacts I need to generate per week, folks. New contacts now, not going back and touching base with old people. These are brand new people who I'm going to have a specific and targeted conversation about real estate with. I need 4.6 of them per week.
So
Now,
let me- I
what's
was gonna
that?
say, look at what we just did, y'all. We just figured out for the numbers for Travis, if he would like to make his goals, he needs to have 5 realistic real estate conversations with people each week. 5 like real conversations a week with people. And given the numbers, if everything played to its numbers, he would make his goals.
Which was $50,000.
50,000. Does that seem reasonable? That you could have 5 real conversations with people. That is, you know, hey, you stopped to somebody, you had a significant conversation in the grocery store. You know, that we're talking about 5. If you do an open house, what are the chances you do 2 open houses, you know, let's even say 3 open houses a month.
Yep.
You've just cut into that number significantly.
Yep.
Is 5 a much more doable? This gives me a plan. There's a company that calls this your sleep number. That's their sleep number. That means if you break that into a week and you work 5 days a week, you're not going home and you should not be resting your head and feeling comfortable until you've had that one conversation a day with somebody who's serious about buying or selling real estate.
And that's the last bit of math right there. Take your number for your weekly number of contacts and divide it by the number of days a week you intend to work, and be realistic with that number too. I am only going to work 5 days a week. Now, it doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to take the weekends off, but I'm going to find me a couple of days to take off during the week. I know me. I know I'm going to do that, right? You have to be honest with yourself about this. And that means for me, folks, to make $50,000 a year, what do I need to do? Do I have a manageable goal for myself for tomorrow now? Do what?
Tomorrow, you have a goal for the whole 365 days. On top of everything else, if you can just have that one conversation, that one real serious conversation, on top of doing all the other things that you need to do in real estate, in theory, you should make your goals. Now, we cannot say what the economy is going to do. We don't know what your health or other people's health are. I mean, nobody expected COVID. But could you now make a plan on how to generate business based off the idea you better find yourself a way to talk to 5 different people a week, 1 a day?
Here's your thing, folks. Do you now have the number 1 item on your to-do list for every single day of your real estate career for the next 12 months right now? Do you have the number 1 item on your to-do list? I must find blank new people to talk to today about buying or selling real estate. How many of you now have a number that you can actually say, this is my to-do list today, right? And obviously you can always come back and revisit this, but isn't it better to have, that's what I got to do today? And but there are going to be days when you're going to get so beat down, folks, and you're going to need to remind yourself, I'm doing what I need to do. I'm doing what I need to do. As long as I keep plugging through these numbers, the numbers are going to fall into place and I'm going to be where I want to be.
So can I just say, I'm going to share my screen for 1 second, if I
Yeah.
may. No, I just had this up. What I don't want you all to do is to freak out when you see this. And I'm just pulling up, I'm going to open up this PDF so you can see it. All of what we just did, I teach, you know, like if I'm coaching, I used to give this to my new people, but I want to show you the difference between how Travis just showed this to you and what it could look like depending on the company you're going to. And what I'm really trying to say is, what we just did and what you see right there are the exact same thing. This is breaking it down by a little bit, but don't be scared by numbers. There was a lot of you that if I had put this sheet in front of you before we started, y'all would have been like, I'm out, Kandyce, I'm out, Travis. I don't even understand what all those things are. Okay. Your job is not to necessarily know all of this off the bat. Your job is to find a company, a person, a mentor, a coach, a source that's going to tell you about these numbers and take the time to either break it down the way Travis and I just did, or to say, okay, you've given me this piece of paper. Could you now walk me through it and make sure I understand it? Because I know at the end, I'm going to get what I'm looking for. Don't let how something is presented scare you away. What this looking right here, I mean, I got things in blue, I got parentheses and LTs and BSs and BCWs and what?
Right.
We just talked about all of this.
We did.
And that means as you're trying to figure this stuff out in real estate, you've got to find either yourself, you're going to have to find a way to synthesize this information to be understandable for yourself, or you need to find somebody or a group of somebodies who are going to synthesize information to be understandable. We're not geniuses. Well, maybe Travis is, but I'm not a genius. But I can look at this and I can say, because I've had experience in it, okay, this makes sense. Until somebody explains it to you, don't expect it all to make sense. It goes back to what I said about opening a bakery. If you're starting a business, you wouldn't expect to know all the jargon, all the math, all the how to do it to be successful until somebody explains it to you. You want somebody to break it down. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes.
Yep.
Again, I like it. This is a great sheet, but this is something I would do for somebody that I was doing longer term coaching. If I'm trying to say, okay, I just need you to get off on the right foot and having a general idea of what's coming, doing something with less detail, like Travis just provided you, is awesome. You find your line. If you're going full time and you're like, I'm going to make it, maybe you want something a little bit more in depth. Let's talk about it. If you're doing this dual career and you're like, look, I got to get up and start moving, the simpler numbers will work. Your path and how you do it does not have to look like everybody else's.
So here's your homework from me for the week. And it's two approaches here, because we got two in two buckets. Number one, I don't ever want to encourage you to violate license law. If you have not hung your license with a firm yet, if you don't have a broker in charge yet, if you're not under somebody's supervision yet, you can't start to reach out to people. But now you have a good idea of what it will take when you hit the ground running. So if you're one of those people that hasn't found an office to join yet, here's your homework. Find an office to join. That's what you're going to work on. That's your task, because there is no other task that matters before that one. Does that make sense?
You can't practice real estate if you're not active.
You can't do anything else until you get to that point. So that's your task for those of you that don't have an office yet. Those of you that have already affiliated, you got your homework. You got your number. Whatever that number is, start today. Start today. There is no time like the present. If your number is one person, what are some of your numbers? What are some of your numbers? I bet nobody had more than 5. I bet 5 was probably on the high end. For 4, Juana said 4, right? 2.5 for Dinah. So if you just want to say 3, right? Rachel said 1. Those are all very attainable numbers, folks. So here's your goal. Here's your homework. Start today. Whether it's 1 or it's 3 or it's 4, it's your goal. Make it happen.
I want to give them a different, for those of you all that are like, look, this is it. This is what I'm doing. I'm not even trying to play around. Like this is all. My challenge to you is find a mentor, a coach, somebody that you can have these, and I'm sorry, assuming you've done step 1 and you are with a company. I need you to find a mentor, a coach, just somebody. This is a lot. This doesn't have to be somebody you pay. If you pay, it's great. You have more access to them, but you need to find an accountability partner, somebody to help you through this, even if it's just another person to talk it through with. You don't want to necessarily be doing this alone. Don't fall off into the, oh, I got lost. I was so overwhelmed, because that's when Vodka Voice starts talking to you. I've talked about Vodka Voice in here, haven't I? Vodka Voice is the voice in your head that tells you, go ahead, have that 5th shot of tequila. or vodka. You'll be so pretty. You'll dance so well. You'll be able to conversate. I hate that word. Converse. Oh yeah. That's that voice that tells you when you get overwhelmed that you can't. I don't want you to do that. Find that person that's going to support you, talk you through it, keep you accountable, because coming to us once a week, that's great. And my guess is you're going to probably need a little bit of a, pat on the back or just a little push forward during the week. Find that person, whether it's your company that's supplying it or you got to go out and get it your own.
We mean for us to be the spark. That's all. We can't be the ultimate guidance as much as we would love to be, because we're not in your office and we're not, directly dealing with you on a one-on-one basis. But I do have a question for you before we go for the day. Was this helpful? Was this meaningful to you? Was this something that got you kind of recentered on, this is what I got to do. This is what I got this license for. This is what I got to start working on. I got my goal. I got my path. I now know what it's going to take for me to get there. Right. And that's what you want in this business. That's what you always want, because if you have these fuzzy, I just want to be the best agent I can be. That is for a recruiting pitch on a Marines commercial. That is not, or Army would be the best you can be. I think it was Army, right?
Army.
The few, the proud, the Marines. That was the Marines. But whatever it is, you've got to have tangible goals, and this was meant to give you something very tangible that you can work toward. And I think you will be shocked if you just have fidelity to just this one little thing, how much of a difference it will make, how much of an impact it will make. So thank you, everybody. Y'all have a wonderful week.
Thank you, everybody. And go talk to people if you're, active. Go talk to people. Do not be an undercover agent.
That's exactly right. Them undercover agents don't make any money. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see y'all next week. Darlene, I'll grab your question real quick before I have to go, if you have one, or were you just saying that was helpful?
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
You're muted, Darlene.
Muted, Darlene. We see you, but I don't read lips that well.
Okay.
Oh no, you remuted yourself. You muted and then you remuted.
There you go. Now you're unmuted.
Okay. I just don't want you to think I'm skipping out, but I have a post licensure for the next 4 weeks starting next Tuesday. So will you be able to email me the recordings?
Yes.
Because I don't want to miss a thing. I don't want to miss a thing. I want to be a sponge.
You've been getting the email. You've been getting the emails up to this point, right? Yes. I will continue to email the recordings. Yes.
And now you put that song in my head, Darlene. Thank you. You don't want to miss a thing.
Great. I don't. I want to be a sponge and just absorb everything. But now, did the recordings get emailed last week? Because I didn't get that.
I sent it out on Friday. I was late.
Okay. I did not get that. So I'm going to put my email.
Send me an email.
Okay. Thank you. I just didn't want you to think that I had bailed on you.
No.
Thank you.
Have fun in class. Learn a lot.
I will do my best. Thanks.
Bye. Hey, Travis, before you go, what do you know about? Oh, you playing my song?
What's up?
From Aerosmith. But what do you know about the new commission member?